guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to
Why are British universities going bankrupt?
This video is brought to you by Henson Shaving. Here in the UK, universities
again.
are
That
something we
sounds
definitely do
wild,
well.
the
Of the
title.
top 20 universities in the world, 4
Well, as far as I'm aware, British does have free education, so they're not bringing income. And if the government are struggling because of the Brexit, well,
Oh, this is the result of the Brexit.
and also
Oh.
I believe so. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think universities are free from British citizens. Internationals gotta pay. So if with the Brexit, maybe there's less internationals coming in now because you need visas and all that shit. So less paying students coming in, and thus
You're right.
that's what you get. But I could be wrong.
Ooh.
British, and many of the top institutions are highly respected around the world. Unfortunately, though, many of them are now facing severe challenges.
But yes, UK institutions are definitely top in the world. That's for sure. Oxford, Cambridge, yep.
LISS.
What is that?
It's a good school.
Oh, I'd never heard it.
With it being reported that 43% are expected to be in deficit by this summer. As a result, universities have already started to cut back their offering. 49% of universities have closed courses, 55% have consolidated courses, 46% have removed module options, and 18% have closed departments. It's not just that universities are facing a financial crisis then. This is already starting to filter through and begin to impact students. So, in this video, we're going to have a look into the university crisis, what caused it, and how it could be resolved. Never miss a major news story by podcaster Financial Crisis. This is for broadly 3 reasons. The first is that back when the UK was a member of the European Union, universities received a huge amount of funding from the bloc, to the tune
Oh,
of
there
around
you go. They got EU funding too. I didn't know that. Well, there you go.
800 million euros. Now, there are ways in which the UK has tried to replicate this funding. For example,
look at like what they're giving up when they decided this. Oh no.
I think it was an emotional decision.
Honestly, yeah,
I think it was like, when you get in a fight, you angry, you're not thinking straight, you say something you don't mean.
Yeah. Or you say, I'm gonna sleep on the couch.
Yeah.
They left the bed for the couch.
Yes. That's exactly what happened. They left the bed for the couch.
by the Shared Prosperity Fund and the EU's Horizon funding scheme. But universities have complained about this being unpredictable. In addition to this,
And
the
the
loss
person
of
in
funding
the
from the
bed,
EU could have
they
been
go in
topped
the
up
middle.
by funding from the UK government.
Living their best
Not
life.
only has this not happened, but only last week, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson announced that the Strategic Priorities Grant, which provides financial support to high-cost subjects, would be cut in the next financial year, from £1.46 billion to £1.35 billion. This is alongside capital funding, another source of government funding for universities, being almost halved, from £150 million to £84 million.
Damn, that's a big
The
cut.
second reason for the financial crisis is inflation. In the last few years in particular, the UK has struggled with high inflation. Universities, though, had the amount that they could charge students capped. In 2012, the tuition fee cap was increased to £9,000, but had scarcely been increased since. In 2017, it was increased by £250 and is set to increase to £9,535 by the end of this year. If tuition fees had risen in line with inflation since 2012, then in April 2025, there'd be around £12,900.
Right. So they're saying it didn't rise as according to inflation. It just rose by a flat amount instead.
That's a lot.
In addition to this, universities have also been struggling with the employer's national insurance hike, which was announced at the budget last year. In total, it's estimated that this has cost the university sector around £374 million.
Damn.
With costs going up and income going down, universities have essentially responded by just cutting the amount that they spend on students, with real-term spending by universities dropping significantly since 2012. It's worth mentioning here that universities have been calling for the tuition fees to increase, as it's the main source of their income. Universities UK, which represents 141 universities, suggested the fee should rise to £12,500 a year in order to meet the teaching costs, which, as we pointed out earlier, is roughly the amount that tuition fees would be had they kept up with inflation since 2012. The final reason for the crisis is the reliance.
So, but what is this? So the education is not free, guys, in UK? Because what is this tuition? Or is just tuition we're talking only about foreign students?
Or is it like state schools versus private schools?
I don't know, because I was under the impression that the schools are free in the UK.
Yeah.
If they're not free, then it's
Why
not
we're in
expensive.
Europe?
It's not expensive compared to American prices.
No, public
come on.
No, public for a public school here is like 7,000 a semester.
A semester. This is a year, I think.
Oh.
So still like 9,000.
Still, I'm thinking in Europe you don't pay.
But I was under the impression that it's free. Yeah, that
How am I supposed to stack up
'Cause-
on degrees now? Oh.
On foreign students. While universities have a cap on how much they can charge domestic students, the same cap doesn't exist for international students. This has meant that universities have essentially treated international students as cash cows.
So they do
As
charge
what?
them cash cows.
Oh.
Maybe like it's free colleges, universities if you get good grades. Maybe like there's a threshold which you have to meet for free,
Oh, the same thing here. Maybe.
and then, well, here it's not just grades though. Here it's like a lot of extracurricular bullshit. In Europe, it's only grades though. So anybody above that grade would qualify. Maybe that's how it is. Because I really was under the impression it's free.
Cows, using the additional revenue from them to make up for the shortfalls elsewhere. The issue is, this has had knock-on effects elsewhere. For starters, journalists noted that some universities were lowering the grade requirements for non-British students trying to get into top universities. For instance, the University of York admitted international students with the equivalent of BBC at A-level, whereas for domestic students they required 3 A's. Additionally, this has somewhat embarrassed the government. For years, the government and both...
But is it because it's not their first language, maybe?
Doesn't matter. That's still a little embarrassing. But why would you?
Is that really bad
I don't
scores?
like it. I don't like it.
Is that
That's
really bad
discrimination.
scores?
Why you discriminate against people from your own country? You take opportunity away from somebody British to give opportunity away from somebody from Lithuania. Why?
English
Let
is not their
Lithuania.
first
It doesn't
language.
matter. Let Lithuanians. Mathematics does not require English.
So, those 3 scores is like, what is that exactly? I don't understand.
Science, math, and history or something. I don't know exactly what they are. But the point is that is not good for you. Like, come on. That doesn't make no sense.
Conservatives and Labour have tried to reduce immigration numbers. However, despite this, in the last few years, study visas and dependent visas, which essentially allow dependents of those studying
But
in the
it
UK
seems
to come
like
with them,
they need like students to come pay the bill, so that's why. It's not
I-
like they get in and they
I
walk
get
in.
why, but it's not fair for the British students.
grew at an unprecedented rate. Between 2011 and 2016, the number of student and dependent visas remained stable at around 200,000 per year. Between 2016 and 2019, they began to grow, hitting 285,000 in 2019. Despite a drop in 2020 as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of visas increased hugely afterwards, reaching a peak of 652,000 in 2023. To try and get a hold of this, the Conservative government announced that, starting January 1st, 2024, only postgraduate students would be able to bring dependents. This is why, from 2024 onwards, we saw a marked drop in dependent visas. Related to this, though, we also saw a drop in the number of main student visas being granted. Seemingly, this change has discouraged potential international students from applying. While this is useful for the government and their immigration narrative, it certainly doesn't help the cash-strapped universities that have come to rely on international students to rectify the funding shortfall. So that's essentially how we've ended up in the situation we're now in with universities. And that's why so many of them are now scaling back on their courses and why so many of them are expecting to be in deficit by summer. What, though, could be done to save them? Well, writing for LSE, Bulent Kake and Fazana Shane claim that there are 2 potential solutions. Firstly, universities should have a cap on numbers reintroduced. Now, while this might sound counterproductive, they argue that this would spread the financial burden more evenly amongst universities. Until 2014, when the coalition government scrapped them, universities had strict limits on how many students they could enrol. When the cap was lifted, it was the more prestigious universities that took on more students, at a detriment of other universities. Just last year, the high-tariff universities saw their enrolment numbers increase by 7.8% from the previous year, at the same time that low-tariff universities saw their numbers drop by 4.4%. Making the matter even worse, lower-tariff universities generally have a smaller proportion of international students, meaning even this can't help their shortfall. While reintroducing student caps wouldn't immediately fix the problem, it certainly would spread the financial burden across universities more equally. The second potential solution is rather simple: to exclude student numbers from immigration statistics. The decline in international students we've seen in recent
Exclude student numbers from immigration statistics. That's just statistics. Who cares?
years is tied to the government's decision to no longer offer visas to dependents of undergraduates. As we've already discussed, this was driven by a desire by the government to reduce immigration. Excluding international students from the statistics would break this mentality and allow the government to re-emphasise the importance of international students. Now, it's worth pointing out that neither of these solutions would fully fix the crisis. They'd merely reduce its effect. The only way to truly solve it is to provide universities with a lot more money.
I don't really understand what the second point helps with anything, unless this is just for politics. Like, to kind of like a loophole around some sort of political decision.
Something this cash-strapped government would find very difficult to do. Lots of people
Okay.
Can I
they
see the
should.
comments?
I was a chef working for a university. I was made redundant after 6 months of my hours being cut. A week after being made redundant, the unit's vice chancellor gave themselves a raise, roughly the same as my annual income. How do you know, though? Is that public information?
Oh.
I don't know. Is there anything in the UK that is on financial? Oh, because we saw there's a pub crisis,
Yeah,
university
that's true.
housing crisis. Yeah, UK is not good. God damn.
Yikes.
The whole world is suffering right now.
But
Yeah.
didn't they say that UK is booming in the finance? It's becoming the financial capital.
Now they're
I
losing financial capital to Europe,
to oh
to mainland
Europe
Europe,
excluding
to
oh
mainland Europe.
UK.
Yeah, UK is losing
Yeah.
financial capital. Yeah, yeah. UK is taking a lot of L since Brexit.
Wow. I would walk back.
Mm.
Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord, and as always, share as much kindness as possible.